So there's people that are wanting to watch from afar, which is great. So let me just put. I'm also going to pin our two leading lights front and center as well. All right, team. Without further ado, it is with absolute pleasure that I welcome you to the next in our Legends series episodes, where we have conversations with some of the leading names, some of the biggest players across our networks who have been doing some tremendous work over the course of a number of years. And today, it is no exception. We have two absolute superstars that are, I don't want to say up and coming because you're already here, but it just feels like to me, it just feels like both of these individuals are just getting started almost. It's kind of weird in that sense. Yeah. But I'm absolutely delighted to be sharing the screen and the mic with Ben Palmerone and Josie Smith from our C21 networks. These two are both Centurions. They're both absolute legends. Ben is #1 real estate agent in New South Wales for C21, newly crowned. Now that we can officially declare it, because I declared it before it was announced in Victoria, so kind of let the cat out of the bag before we should have done. But anyway, and Josie Smith has been, how long? Josie, how long have you been in the network for now?
About 18 months.
18 months, and I swear down, I've not seen anybody, and she hasn't paid me to say this, I've not seen anybody make the most out of the opportunities than Josie has. I just think that the work that she's been doing and the effort that she's been putting in has been absolutely phenomenal. So a tremendous amount of respect for these two individuals. Welcome, gang. How are we both?
Yeah, really well. Yeah, everyone knows it's been an eventful last 2 weeks for me at C21. So been in the network for 15 years in C21, but in real estate for 20. So give you a little bit about myself there.
And more importantly, Ben, have you recovered from the awards ceremony?
Mate, I have. Let me just give you one heads up. Andy, I broke the #1 trophy on the night. It broke. But we've ordered a new one. I should get it today. It fell off the dining table in the hotel room. What more do you want me to say?
No, I don't want you to say anything.
Leave it at that.
Thank you. I think we could draw a line under that right there. Josie, give us a bit of an MO on your background in real estate.
Yes, so I've been in sales in the Ipswich area. I'm coming on 15 years. And as you said, yeah, I've only been with the C21 brand since it was September 21 that I opened the Ipswich office. So yeah, just on 18 months. Yeah, so but being ridiculously busy. Obviously, the market's changing.
Yeah. No, Josie's in those 18 months. I think it's safe to say you've almost been through most, if not almost every market cycle in a very, very short space of time as a business owner, right?
Yeah, it was hectic at the start. So I mean, it's still busy now because appraisal numbers are through the roof. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, gang, this conversation that we're going to have today is all around buyers. Okay, so as is the case with a changing market and whatnot, and we're going to get these guys their market opinions in a sec. But as is the case with many markets right now, with the shifting market, buyers become a little bit more challenging with respect to the fact that they're not just prepared to give you all of their money. They want to make you work for it a little bit and what have you. And there's a few more challenges around making sure that we are making the most out of those buyers, because we are spending more time with them. We are, in negotiation, in conversation, so on and so forth. And one thing that we've got to make sure that we do is that we are making the most of our opportunities and making the most of our time that we are spending, that extra time that we are spending with each of these buyers. And this is why these two superstars are going to give us their tips, tricks, and magic dust that they tend to sprinkle on their markets and bring them success. By the way, team, if you do have any questions, I'm keeping an eye on the chat function, right? So please utilize the chat function. Ask questions, ask for opinions, ask for thoughts, challenge anything that gets said over the course of the next 40 or so minutes. because, like I've said before on numerous occasions, we all need to break a few eggs in order to make a cake. And I know that these guys have got zero ego. They're always keen on learning as much as they are helping other people learn. So make sure that you are not strangers on the message function. Now, before we crack on with some specific questions around your buyer work and your buyer activities and so on and so forth, let's just get a quick sort of elevator pitch of how your market's faring right now. Ben, I'll start with you.
Yeah, look, the market, we found it really, really active up until, I would say, October last year, where we saw that real shift come in effect around the time where the interest rate started to go up. What we've been faced since then is obviously buyers. We run with a very ethnicity background here in Fairfield, multiculturals, and as soon as interest rates get set, buyers breaks straight on. Listings breaks straight on. So it's been really overcoming those challenges now with buyers to get them to commit, to get them to come to auctions, and actually making sure that we've got competition on the day.
Yeah, cool. Josie, how about you? You mentioned that the market you are starting to feel a bit of a change now. I know that Queensland has been a little bit late to the party with regards to this market shift, which is understandable because everybody wants to move there, for goodness sake, with good reason. So how are you finding it?
Yeah, so obviously quite different to Ben's market. So just with the property cycle, the cities move at different rates and different paces. So it's always going to happen in Sydney and Melbourne first, out to Brisbane, but it's a ripple effect before we feel it here. We're more in a regional area in Ipswich.
Yeah.
So I mean, December and January were some of my biggest months. When the interest rates went up, yes, rates went on for a couple of weeks, but then it sort of kept ticking over. It's a lot slower to get buyer traction right now. Obviously, the frenzy's long gone. But appraisal numbers are through the roof at the moment. I find it's a bit of an eerie time on the market here because we're still quite short on stock. So there's not an awful lot of stock on the market just yet, but rest assured it will be coming. In line with appraisals are through the roof. So, but it's just the next part of the cycle. And I think the big thing is just to understand where your market is in that property cycle and being prepared for what's coming next.
Yeah, and I think looking ahead, like you said, playing chess instead of checkers is a smart move. Instead of working in the present, always keep one eye on what's coming on the horizon as well, and making sure that you can work to that horizon is really, really critical if you want to sustain your success instead of being a flash in the pan. Now, Josie, I'll stick with you for the time being. In terms of and just getting a bit more of an understanding of your marketplace, in terms of buyer demographics. And price demographics and whatnot. Give a very brief snapshot in terms of what your average prices are and the types of buyers that you generally tend to see more than others.
Yeah, so obviously the median price has gone up substantially. So the median price across Ipswich in general is still, do you know what I mean, between 450 and 500,000. So still quite low compared to a lot of other areas. The demographics, investors obviously have dropped off a fair bit, particular interstate buyers from what we had last year. But there's still a lot of people out there buying. They're all buying for a reason. So. And the price points, obviously a lot of people have come back in what they can afford because of the interest rates have gone up. I have a lot of buyers whose pre-approvals have dropped to the last minute, things like that.
Yeah, Ben, have you been experiencing similar?
100%, especially with what Josie just touched on. It's something that I forgot about, but we've had buyers going into an auction quoting, let's say, 800, 850 week one. Come week four, all of a sudden, oh no, my brokers told me I can only go to 758.
Yeah.
And in that case, you've still got to create competition, right? So, I definitely, I'm going to agree with her point. That's been a big thing that we've had to deal with here.
Yeah, and I think we'll start there. We'll start there with our buyer conversations and whatnot, because that's obviously been something that the media haven't been very keen on advertising, right? They've been very keen to be pushing property prices down with the news and the headlines and so on and so forth. But something that's been really flying under the radar is that with each interest rate rise, the availability for buyers to win their prize in terms of the property that they actually want is being impacted significantly as well. But the media really aren't paying any attention to that in any way, shape, or form. Now, Ben, in terms of with those conversations that you're having around buyers that are at 850 in week one and down at 758 in week four, two parts to this, right? Firstly, how are you keeping those buyers enthused about engaging in the property market? Part one. But part two, how are you then able to utilize that information, and how do you utilize that information when it comes to your vendor conversations?
Yeah, look, number one, first and foremost, we run a lot of properties via the auction strategy. So obviously, I don't lowball floating price. I'm not about all that. I'm about giving honest information to buyers and sellers alike. So with the buyers, I'm just being open and transparent and letting them know, look, make sure you're there, because we don't know what's going to happen with the vendor come the day of auction. They may turn around and be in a position that I didn't know about, and then they're go ahead and sell, which has happened now on 2 occasions in the last 2 months with us. So just keeping their interest level there, and communication is the key. My buyers get spoken to just as much as what I do with my vendors, 2-3 times a week, a text message, a phone call, and an email. That goes out to all my buyers as well that I've got on my hot list leading into the auctions. And the second point, Andy, was, sorry.
How do you utilize that information when you're having your conversation
with the vendors meetings?
Yeah.
So look, if a buyer is giving me a reduced amount that they can spend up to on the day, what I like to do is, look, just throw me a quick text with that in there. When I get to the vendor's house, I've got all these text messages printed out, so it's raw and hard evidence. And that's helping me come auction day with the conditioning process as well.
I think the reason why it is as well, and it's a great little move, is the fact that it's not you telling them.
No,
it's the buyers telling them directly, and you are just
Andy, they can see the number, they can see the name, they've seen this name come up on their vendor reports. So the connection's there straight away. It's like, here, guys, that's from straight from them.
It's a really good thing. And back in the day, there used to be carbon paper, right? Where you used to have some agents that would get their buyers to put some feedback on the carbon paper, and then they'd leave a copy of that after the opens and whatnot, right?
We actually had C21 buyer feedback cards at our homes years ago.
Yeah, well, there you go, man. There you go. And I think that's one thing that we do need to really do, gang, is we need to make sure that we distance ourselves from the feedback and make sure that vendors, sellers are very much aware that it's not us telling them, it's the market telling them. We're just the delivery, we're just the posties delivering that information to them. And so therefore it means that we're not the ones delivering the bad news, it's the market delivering them the reality, which I think is really important. Now, going back to one point that you mentioned there about you communicate with your buyers as regularly as you do your vendors. You say 2-3 times a week with your hot buys that you've got on your auctions. What sort of things do you communicate to them? What reasons do you give yourself in order to communicate with them? Look,
first and foremost, obviously, reminder of any additional open homes. So what I do with my campaigns, instead of setting a midweek open home at the start of the campaign, I add them per week. So it gives me an opportunity to ring them on the Monday for feedback, but on the Tuesday, say, hey guys, is there anyone else that you wanted to see the property? Come back through tomorrow night. You just maybe noticed on realestate.com, I've launched a midweek then. Launching that midweek during the week gives me another avenue to discuss it with them again. And then there's another avenue is, hey guys, have you got a solicitor? Have you got a conveyancer in charge? Have you gone and seeked a second opinion in terms of finance? I can help you out with those services as well.
Okay, cool. So auxiliary services. And what I also like about that is the fact that a lot of agents will sort of get the green light that a buyer is interested and then sort of stick their head in the sand hoping that they stay there until the auction day, right?
100%. And 90% of the time they've gone and bought something else. But did you give them a reason? Did you tell them that the vendor has to sell? Did you tell them it may or may not be a deceased estate, and the fact that the owners will be selling regardless come the auction day? Like, that's something else I push with text messages. If it's a scenario where I know my owner's going to sell regardless, within reason, in my text message reminder to all my buyers, it's written in big top things in capitals. Owners are committed elsewhere. We are here to sell. Bang. It gives me another avenue to make sure they're there on the day. Nine times out of 10, Andy, if I say I've got 10 buyers coming to auction, 10 are there.
Yeah, love it, love it. Now, Josie, you do say, if memory serves me correct, you guys do more private sale than you do auctions, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So let's talk it. Let's talk in private sale land for a little while here now. So Josie, from your point of view, obviously, if a property doesn't sell in the first couple of weeks, because your days on market, are your days on market still nice and tight? Are they still short? Or
they've pushed out at least 4 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Whereas last year was a week or two. So
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
the average time on market.
Right. All right. So on that then, if you know with the buyers that you've got that come through in the first couple of weeks or so, right? Then they see it's on for the first couple of weeks, and then generally you get the vernacular of, "Oh, I'm not in any rush," and blah 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 blah, and a lot of them are trying to wait to see if the price is going to come down a little bit first, and so on and so forth. How are you dealing with that? What sort of things are you saying to deal with that increased level of apathy in the market? What are you doing? What are the sort of things that you're saying
to the buyers?
Yeah,
to the buyers. So obviously we need to keep in touch with all of our buyers, and a lot of them are watching the listings, but at the moment in our market, as I said, there's not an awful lot of stock on the market just yet. So I mean, it's not too prevalent that the buyers are sitting on their hands for 2 months. So they are slower to buy, but it's about the relationship building with them. And keeping in contact with them. You know, we can't underestimate the power of rapport with buyers and building that connection. So they're buying for a reason. So understanding their whys and knowing how to overcome their objections and matching them with properties. So we're connectors. So that's what we should be doing, is building the relationships with the buyers that way. With my sellers, it's about planting the seeds from the start. And continually doing that. And your old strategy, kiss, kiss, you should be doing that right from the start. So
100%.
It's a simple strategy. You know, a lot of agents don't know about it, but you know, tell them the good feedback, tell them the bad feedback, then tell them something good. Because I mean, for sellers, they're selling, you know, their biggest asset, so it's a big deal to them. You don't want to have them with bad feedback all the time. So build the rapport with your sellers as well. You know, if you're getting rapport with people, they subconsciously, their mind says, this person's like me, and it's a lot easier to communicate with them. It's a lot easier to relate to them, and then you can overcome their objections a lot easier.
Now, when it comes to let's focus on the buyers when it comes to building that rapport, because obviously we don't have as much time to build that rapport with buyers as we do with our sellers. And when we are coming out of the back of a really good market where it's almost like a million of them kicking around and whatnot, and as agents, let's call it for what it is, we didn't feel we needed to in many respects because of volume. How do you as an agent build rapport with buyers in that very, very short space of time that you've got with them? Whilst at the same time, here's the interesting question here's the interesting bit to it. Whilst at the same time making sure that you stay in a position of understanding that you work for the seller and not the buyer.
Correct. Yeah. So obviously, yes, we work for our sellers, but that doesn't mean the buyer can't have a good experience and you'll be a good person to them. So we obviously have a very short time amount with the buyers on site. If you can meet them in person, don't underestimate the power of body language as well. You can get in rapport with somebody within 1 or 2 minute space. So if they're a very laid back person and you come at them like a bull at a gate, speaking a million miles an hour, they're going to be standoffish and they're going to shut down. So watch them, observe how they behave, and get in rapport with them and try and establish that connection in the first minute or two of meeting them, because I mean, you can do it. The other thing is knowledge is power. So if you have the answers to the questions, you're upfront about things, you're going to overcome objections for buyers who hold off because they don't know this piece of information or that piece of information. So know your market, know your property. You need to have all the answers.
Know your product, man. And that's something that I know I'm sounding like a broken record around this one, but every single weekend when I'm at the coalface of auction land, it just freaks me out how little some agents know about the properties that they are selling. You know, it should be super easy to be able to answer your standard questions: land size, house age, right? But let's stop messing about in not thinking that you're going to be asked any other questions. We generally know all of the questions that are going to get asked about each property, right? That's part of what we're being paid to do as experienced campaigners in the game. You are just doing yourself such a disservice, but you're also, and this is one critical piece of what Josie just said. Not only are you doing yourself a disservice, you are doing your product, your property a disservice, and you're creating doubt into the credibility of that property as well. It's one thing I say to auctioneers in the same vein. You need to learn your contracts, because if someone asks you a question mid-auction, you don't know the answer to it, the credibility of the auction is shot, and therefore the confidence that they can move forward as buyers with that auction, with that property, diminishes really, really quickly. And exactly the same can be said when it comes to private sales. So what Josie just said there about knowledge is power, it can never be more true, especially when you're in a market where buyers are a little bit more hesitant and reticent to crack on. They don't need much of an excuse to turn off. And so we as agents sometimes create a rod for our own back, because we sort of serve up the excuses on a silver platter sometimes, which is a bit silly and a bit useless. So now, Ben, when it comes to your communications at scale with your buyers, how do you make sure that you stay relevant with the information that you give? Do you have hot buyer list per property, but then do you then utilize those buyer database points to then shift them over to other properties? How do you manage your buyer database?
100%. So every property that we list, and you do know we do a lot of auctions here, but even the ones that aren't going to auction, they're going on the market private treaty. We cross-sell all the time. It's something our team talks about every single Friday in our sales meeting. Cross-selling. Have you gone into depth with this buyer? Have you found out what they're actually looking for? Pricing, criteria, who else is buying with them? Are they buying by themselves, couple, mum and dad? And then taking them to other properties, physically ringing them and showing them, sending them links, but then following up with a text message or an email or a phone call. We do a top 10 buyers list on every single agent here in our office. On top of that, we've got a top 5 to 10 on every property. Yesterday I did a count up. I think actively on one property in 2 weeks, we had 39 inquiries.
Now, do you, just a quick interjecting question on that one. If, say, for example, you've got your top 5 hot buyers, right? On a particular auction. This is a pretty common question that I sometimes tend to get. If you've got a private sale property, one of those 5 would be keen as mustard for. You know that you'd be able to knock off that private sale property with one of those 5 buyers that are red hot for one of the auctions. What are your thoughts, and what is your strategy around that?
Oh, look, that's a tough one, Andy, because you're in a catch-22 situation. You want them to come to the auction in case you lose anyone else, but then at the same token, you got to sell the other one. Look, fit the buyer profile. Really, ask the questions. Which property would suit? Not all properties are the same here in Western Sydney. So you would actually ask the questions and see which one fit the both. If there is a buyer that you know that private treaty then sell for, you've still got 4 others here. You've got a 1 in 4 chance. These are going to buy. So take them over, close that deal. You got two deals.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I would be doing in that scenario. That's a really tough one to ask, Andy, and great question in saying that, because I've got another property at the moment. We've got 2 similar ones going to auction on the same day. So I'm all now like, okay, what's the order of sale? Shit, I've got to come up now. Like, there's 3 or 4 others now similar that we've got to come up with now an order for the day.
Yeah. Really important, that.
It is. And you know what? If you've got an opportunity to help 2 families at the end of the day, what are we really doing in real estate? Help the 2 families, right?
And you know what? That's actually, and just as a little side note, that could actually be a perfect scenario to do an in-room instead.
I've done them before, and they're awesome.
Yeah, because buyers that miss out on the first one are much easier to transfer over to the second one if it's 5 minutes later.
We did it really well 4 weeks ago. We had 2 similar properties. We knew which one was going to go off first. The other one was around the corner. So we planned it out. The one that sold first, we actually got 5 of those buyers off to the next auction.
Yeah.
Neither of those other parties bought, but it drove the price completely up because they were frustrated from the last one.
Yeah, for sure.
So it can work. And you're there to help people. Don't ever forget what we're actually doing in our industry, guys.
Yeah.
I keep it forefront every day. We're here to help. We're in a service industry, full stop.
No, I couldn't agree more, my man.
Yeah.
Now, Josie, when it comes to you making the most out of your buyer database, because we know that buyers are, they're not just buyers, right? They're not just buyers. So when it comes to making sure that yourself and your team are keeping an eye out for opportunities and whatnot around these buyers that we're spending a little bit more time with, and we've got a bit more time to build a rapport with. What sort of things, what sort of questions do you ask that allow you to really get a grip on making the most, squeezing as much juice out of that bit of fruit that is that point of data as you possibly can?
So it's always important to remember that buyers are sellers and sellers are buyers. And to continue building a relationship with them. With our databasing, we use Rita with a buyer journey sequence. So we do get quite a few leads off that, even for sales as well. So we get referral leads from buyers. So I think it's about managing your database. Systems like Reader, which are obviously available through C21, I think they're invaluable. So, and keeping on top of it, and knowing what your buyer's looking for. So particularly with your database, if you've got the wrong property requirements set in there and you start sending $1 million properties to a buyer that's capped at 500 for the wrong area, they're going to unsubscribe pretty quick. So keep your data clean, wash it, keep in contact, provide them some value, and be there. So.
And what you've just said reiterates a point that Justin O'Connell made in the last Legend Series session. Yeah. He was very, very keen on stressing the importance of making sure that you have very clean data. And what clean data is, gang, is in this case, it is buyers that you've got a decent amount of information set to and criteria set against. So that if you bring up a search and you look to do a broadcast of an SMS or an email or whatever it is, the people that you're going to send it to are the ones that are going to actually want to see and hear what it is you've got to say. We don't realize as an industry, I don't think, and I think as operators, we don't realize sometimes how damaging irrelevant information can be to our brand and our organization. We feel that it doesn't do anything, but it actually really creates an animosity towards brands that just incessantly send bullshit, right? It really, really does. So you've got to be very, very aware that you might think that, I'm just going to send it to everyone and then people that want to see it will have a look at it. No, because the people that don't want to see it, or like Josie said, if you're sending dream homes to someone that can only spend $400,000 or $500,000, how do you think that's going to make them feel? It's like one of those, like in a game show where the game host goes, "Oh, look at what you could have won," and sort of making sure that they feel like a loser, right? So so you've got to be very, very aware of the dynamics that you're creating with the database work that you are doing. Very, very important that. And on that as well, one thing that I'll reiterate with eSales and Greenhouse is the ability to do buyer matching, getting your motivated sellers connected to your motivated buyers. And that 5-step process that is on C21, that's in C21 Plus. Ticking the most motivated sellers that are in your database, put in what you think it's worth, match it to the current database that you've got. So you can do this as a step-by-step process on eSales, on Greenhouse, and then call those sellers that you have got potential buyers that it is matched it to, and then ask them, you want 500,000. I've got buyers at 450. Is it worth me bringing them across, or is it a waste? Is it a complete waste of time and getting them to entertain your home? And then what you do is from there, you then call those said buyers and lock in that appointment. So the 5 stages of an effective buyers meeting is really, really important. It's a really good fundamental that's in the C21 Plus program that I'd highly recommend right now. I think more critical than ever that you go and have a look at that, because not only will that help you to really make sure that you've got the right buyers engaged, it also helps to get some of these fence sitting sellers off the fence and in the game. Because I don't know about you two guys, but since the interest rate halted its rise this month,
where you're going.
I've seen a few more sellers just go, oh, maybe I can hold off for a little bit longer.
So true. The second we got that interest rate hold here in Sydney, I had 2 in particular I was working on. No, Ben, sorry, we're going to hold. And boom, then the brakes. Two properties that were hot. The motivation was hot. The property was hot. We were ready to go. All of a sudden, dropped off the board. So, and it's been even harder to get listings this month. Like I said to you just before we went on air, Andy, I think I had up to 6 for the month. And I'll tell you now, I've had to fight tooth and nail every single one of those ones to sign up.
Yep.
It's been probably the hardest 6 listings I've taken.
And when it comes to your buyer work around those, like how many times when it comes to your sellers, these potential sellers that you've been trying to work on and work in and work into the game, have you been sort of showing them buyer lists? What have you been doing that's sort of giving them that bit of confidence?
I have brought with me before with my iPad and my laptop and actually done a buyer match to that property. That's not really working our marketplace right now. What is working is auction results in the last month. Showing them that, but showing them how we got the buyer to the property, because they're going out to auctions. They're seeing buyers' numbers at auctions reduce and reduce. So then they wanted to know, well, okay, Ben, how did you get 15 for your last one? And the agent down the road, same property, only got 5. Really showing them that technique, how we did it through text messages, emails, and phone calls. That's been my winning point lately and my real sticking point at listings.
Fair enough. Now, Josie, what else in your opinion, as a business owner, as well as the lead, as well as a tremendous listing agent, how else do you feel we can make more of the buyer opportunities that we come across? Like, in your opinion, as a business owner who's trying to do their best to, make the most out of every opportunity.
Yes.
What's your opinion on how you as a business, how we as a network, and how as we as an industry, how do you think we can make more from the buyers that we have in our data? Because I really like the fact that you, for example, you've got Rita doing a buyer sequence. Now, a lot of the time, a lot of people, and especially people on this call, will think that that Rita is really sort of specifically for sellers.
No,
and it really isn't. But how else do you feel as a business owner we can make the more out of the buyers that we connect with and the humans that we connect with?
Well, in addition to managing your database and keeping it clean and building the relationships, obviously your buyers meetings that Ben was talking about before, that's going to come into it as well. But for me, it's about getting the connection, getting the data, and hanging on to it. So, and building the relationship with them, because as I said, buyers are sellers and sellers are buyers. I remember through the last, some of the downturns earlier on, buyers agents were even really highly sought after. So it's about treating them all well. So we'll come back. I think during COVID, a lot of agents dropped the ball and had a bit of an ego and didn't treat buyers too well. They'll remember that. So I remember in some last downturns, not long after I started in the industry after the GFC, and I'd have buyers come to me and want me to conjunct with the other agent because they didn't want to deal with that agent. So people will always remember how you made them feel, and I think that needs to be foremost of our thoughts when we're dealing with buyers.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely spot on, and they do. That's what Maya Angelou says, right? They will always remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, I won't forget.
And I used to have it said to me, I'll have someone say, I'll have a vendor say to me that, look, Agent X was great to buy through, but I'd never sell through them in a million years.
There you go.
It's about communication and doing what you say you're going to do as well. So answer the phone, return the calls. If you say you're going to do something and send them something, do it. So
Yeah, you're spot on. Now, Ben, I want to talk
Yep.
about how we can really do more with the buyers, with the humans that we connect with and buyers when it comes to our social media. I know that you do a hell of a lot on the social media side of things, as does Josie.
Yeah.
You know, you're both real good at, you're both really sharp with what you do. But I feel that there might be a missed opportunity with the buyers that we meet in terms of giving them enough of a reason to actually bother following you in the first place, right?
Yeah. So what I try to do is at every open home, I've got a sheet with a QR code that links to my link tree, which you can add me from Instagram from there. I actually tell buyers the second I walk out of every listing, you're going to know about what suburb it is in. In New South Wales, we're very heavily regulated with social media about putting addresses and stuff like that in case we haven't got contracts in time. So we can't advertise an address until we've got a contract. So I just put selling soon or just listed, the suburb, and that's it. 9 times in, let's say, I would say at least 10 times, last year, I had people buy property that had seen a post saying just listed Bosley Park or just listed Fairfield, and they would come, look, and execute the deal. So I do get them engaged a lot with what's going on my story. Then, obviously, the post comes on about the video or the photos. Yeah. So that's my biggest track to get buyers engaged with my social media.
Yeah, okay. Now, what else do you feel that we can do as agents, as businesses, and as a network to actually help us engage with buyers more and actually keep them on the hook, right? And actually get them in, not just about the property specifically, but also about just you as an agent, generally speaking, because as we said, buyers become sellers, and and look, we don't have the stock for every single buyer that we meet, right?
That's right.
But they are, majority are going to be moving into your area.
Well,
So
the one thing I'd ask is when they were buying, how many times did you send them a link to another agent's listing that you know is suitable for them? You've seen it before they have. You know, it's something that I do quite regularly. If I know another agent's got an auction, they're signed up exclusively. I can't do anything about that. So hang on, Mr. Buyer, how about you go and have a look at it? I think this is great for you. Bear in mind, they might have a property to sell. If you've just done that action and gone out of your way for them, there's a chance you're getting the resale, not the other agent that sold them the property.
Yeah, for sure.
You're giving yourself an opportunity. There is so many opportunities in buyers as agents we forget about. I've done it before in my career. I'm hands up to say I was wrong at one point. But now I've flipped my mentality and I look at everyone like an opportunity, no matter who they are.
Josie, moving forward, you know, if we're looking ahead to, you know, not that our crystal balls work anymore, they've all broke a few years ago, right? But looking ahead and looking at the work that you're putting into your buyers now, moving forward, once those buyers have committed or what have you, and they become part of your database, what are the sort of things that you do, or what are the sort of things that you say to some of those buyers or some of those people that you met as buyers, and how do you help sort of convert them into just being followers and believers of Josie Smith and C21?
Okay. Yeah. So obviously keeping the contact with them afterwards. You need to keep so many points of contact after they've sold. And again, it's about the transaction and how you made them feel. So if they had a really great experience, they're going to keep in contact with you. So a lot of our buyers and sellers then start following our social media. So it's about giving them value through that as well. So we've got our certain touch points, you know, scheduled for post sales. And yeah, a lot of them follow our social media. It's just about giving value back to them.
Giving value back to them being the critical piece.
I've just written that down because I felt like that was a really good point, Josie. So I've written that down for myself. Thank you.
Yeah. And when we use the term value, I think it's used quite loosely within our game on a number of occasions. So give us some examples of that of value that you bring. Yeah.
So I mean, you've got your old market updates. Of course, everyone should be doing those. Your anniversary letters, that's all standard things. So value is in keeping the contact with them, value on social media. So we do I mean, we do a lot of networking with other local businesses. We do a lot of donations back to charity. We do a lot of giveaways. We do you know what I mean? A lot of things like that on our social media. We do a lot of value posts. But, you know, if you've sold one just down the road from that, someone where you've sold, I mean, you should be letting them know straight up, not just an email. So, and keeping the contact, because 9 times out of 10, they've got another property to sell. They've got family that want to sell. So, and the bulk of my business comes from referrals. Like, at least 90% of my business comes straight from referrals. So, and some referrals come from buyers who have never sold with me.
Yeah, wow.
And that's the thing though, right? Like, we spend so much of our time chasing people that we don't know, but the people that we've already met could fund us for life.
Yeah.
Right? Could actually feed us for life, right? If you I don't think it's too far-fetched to say that any one buyer that we meet, let alone any one seller, but I'd actually say it's probably more of a probability that any one buyer that we meet could end up bringing, whether it's primarily through them or through, you know, 1 or 2 degrees of separation, if we treat them well enough, like that one contact can turn into what, 4 or 5 pieces of business?
Exactly.
Easy.
And that might not just be the transaction. It could be the landlord. It could be the parents that helped them get in the property that were super impressed on how you treated their kids, right, with their first home. And they're going, hold on, these guys are legit.
Yeah.
I've got investments, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You know.
I sold one during the downturn years ago. It was an open listing, and the other agent actually ended up selling it, and I didn't sell it, but the sellers referred me to 2 of their friends, and I sold one of their family property literally in the last 6 months, and this is from years ago, and I wasn't even the selling agent. So
yeah, wow.
This is the thing, right? This is the thing, and
relationship,
and it really is a point that I'm really quite keen on hammering home, and this is where Ben and Josie are both absolutely brilliant when it comes to this. You can't just give up on someone or something or a strategy just because it doesn't bring you a transaction or income within like a week or a week and a half. The consistency that both of these individuals show with their communications around their buyer databases is the reasons as to why they're getting fruit falling from trees that they didn't even know were planted in the first place.
Yeah.
And that is a huge point that you all need to really get into your heads. You aren't here. It's no longer a hunting game. It's a farming game. And we need to make sure that we operate with that slightly longer term mentality if you really want to have sustainable success, because as Josie said wonderfully well there, it is literally, we can't just do, we have to bring a value over a period of time in order to earn the trust of anyone that we're dealing with. Ben, from your side of things, man, is there anything else that you do that helps you to bring value to your consumer base and your buyer base?
I think we've covered a lot of that going off. Look, e-sales is a big part. I'm going to keep driving e-sales home until I go blue in the face. But e-sales has created so many deals for me, listing and sales, along the years, that buyer matching is something I did 15 years ago on e-sales, man, in Charles Tardy's very first prototype of this thing. And I still use those same techniques today in my business. You know, I'm forever quoting, I don't know if anyone's even heard of it, Charles Tardy's Back to Basics CD that he released 18 years ago. Like, that CD still plays in my car every day. And it talks about building relationship with buyers, finding common ground, finding common interests as you're walking through the home. Like, guys, we're here to serve them. It's not the other way around.
Oh, look, and humans have been humans for the last however many thousands of years,
That's
right?
right. That's right. 100%. Be real. I put a post up last night, Andy. I don't know if you saw it. Be humble, be yourself, be you.
I did not see that, mate. It's probably the only post. Probably only blue post I don't see of yours.
It didn't have my voice in it. That's why, Andy.
Yeah, I know. So I wasn't turned on. Now, I've got a question from Hayden, and I might direct this to Ben.
Yeah.
Because Josie kind of knows Hayden pretty well, I would have thought. Now, Ben, do you find that you are getting more business due to the less experienced COVID agents flaking out with the upcoming downturn market?
Yes, 100%.
Are you finding though, and I'll just ask a question off the back of that. Are you finding that before they leave, they are leaving something of a trail of destruction when it comes to desperation and whatnot?
They're speaking with commission breath.
Mm.
They're giving out a commission straight off the bat and then dropping it a second because they know they've got no other avenue to beat you on. If you go in with good quality content and honest opinions, you're going to win the business every single time. Be real. I'm going to go back to it. Be yourself. Be real. Don't fake it. Tell the truth.
Yeah, the whole fake it till you make it. It doesn't really fly now.
Years ago, so gone.
That is one thing that I think that's one thing that the likes of Google have done very, very well to expose. The fakers get found out in a big way.
Man, 20 years ago, you could tell someone you were 25, but really you were 18. Like now, it's a different story, right? Where's your date of birth?
Hey gang, before I let you both go, I've sort of been asking all of the legends sort of this last sort of question to sort of round off the episodes, and this has been another tremendous episode, gang. The one thing that I think needs to be pointed out before I close off is the obvious level of passion that these two individuals have when it comes to serving their consumers. They're not slaves. They're not slaves. Look, they've still both got hair. They're still smiling. They are not slaves to the game. They very much serve the game, and you can still serve the game and still provide a level of service. It doesn't mean that you have to feel like you're at the mercy of your phone 24/7.
No.
But the clear passion that's coming from both of these individuals is an obvious reason as to why they're going as well as they are. Josie, I'll start with you. Just one last sort of thought that I'd like you to sort of express. When it comes to buyers, if we've got people on the call and on this session and are listening afterwards that are sort of really struggling to bring deals together, they're really struggling to make just get any sort of momentum in the stagnant market, for example, what sort of buyer work would you recommend? What are the top sort of two or three actions that you would make absolutely sure if you were in that position? What would you be doing? Top 2 or 3 actions that you would be doing right now
with the buyers?
Yeah.
Number one, listen to them. Listen to their needs. A lot of agents don't listen, and build the rapport, which is building the relationship as well, and communicate. Learn to communicate better with them. So if you don't know the basics of body language and rapport, get some books, learn more.
That's amazing. And I really, because that was one of your first points that you made on this in this session, was the whole body language thing. You can't learn that stuff by osmosis, gang.
No, basic knowledge of it, but learn more. So, and learn your property cycle and understand where you are in the cycle and what's coming next. So know your stuff.
Absolutely love that point. You've got to, knowledge is power. If you're not sure, you've got to learn something. You can't just get a script or a dialogue off of some bloody 1990s trainer that says do this and then automatically you make squillions of dollars. You got to learn some of this stuff. You got to learn how humans behave and interact and so on and so forth, so that you can increase your probability of getting it right, for goodness sake. Ben, final word with you, my friend. If you could impart 1 or 2 little elements of wisdom onto our networks in terms of how they can really fire themselves up, and let's look at the positive, the silver lining, the opportunities that are out there.
Yeah.
What are the 2 or 3 things that you would want them to focus on as individuals in the game?
Ask more questions. My biggest thing is, how well do you know these people? You'll only get them to respond well to you if you've asked them quality questions. And it's got to come from the heart, not scripted, not, oh, so you're looking for 3 or 4 bedrooms. That really find out. So you're looking for 3 or 4. Tell me, if you've got 2, 3 kids, are you looking at having kids? Dig deeper. Find out, have you got mum and dad staying with you? Find out why. Buyers have got motivation as to why they're buying just as much as sellers do.
Right?
I
love that. Don't go more than skin deep on your questions that you're asking.
Once you find out that, you'll find so much more.
Yeah, love it. And it doesn't, and it's not a massive, and it doesn't take a massive effort to do that, right?
While you're smiling, my biggest thing is every phone call, imagine that person staring at you through the phone.
Why is that?
Your positivity will come through so much better.
I couldn't agree more, my friend. Could not agree more.
I'm a big believer in positive belief and feelings, and where I've been through in terms of depression before. I'm a big advocate of men with depression and talking about it. Make sure you're smiling, because buyers will feel it. When I was in the depths of my worst part, when I wasn't smiling, I couldn't piece together a deal if my life depended on it. So smile. It's the best part.
Smile. And on that incredible little end note there, I want to bring this this amazing Legends session to a head. Gang, for those of you that have joined us, I'm sure you will agree with me in saying that it's been an amazing 50 or so minutes spending time chatting to these two absolute superstars of our network, both in Queensland and in New South Wales. But the individuals that they are, like I said, if you haven't followed them on social media, be it Instagram, Facebook, or both, I'd highly recommend that you do, because they both have different ways of doing very, very good things. Ben is very much camera front in your face sort of stuff, which I'm not saying in your face in a bad way. He just puts himself out there, and it shows his personality so positively. But the level of professionalism that Josie and her crew put their stuff out there it sets the benchmark for how every office should run, in my humble opinion. So please follow them on social media, and please interact with them on social media as well. These are two wonderful people, and I'm sure that they would be delighted to interact with you and help you as well as much as you're potentially helping them. So Ben, Josie, thank you so much for being a part of our Legends series. It's been an amazing session, taken so much from it, and I'm sure everybody else has as well. And thank you for being two of the legends within our network. We really value you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Take care, gang. Stay safe, healthy, happy as always. And if you do have any questions about this or anything around your buyer efforts, please reach out. We're more than happy to do some sessions with you directly. Just get in contact with us on email, workplace. Send us a carrier pigeon and I'll pick it up shortly, I'm sure. But take care, and we'll look after you. We'll see you again real soon.
Done. See you guys.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.